Today, pilot gig rowing is one of the fastest growing sports in the UK and is particularly popular in Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. The sport has deep roots in the maritime history of the region. The term gig refers to various small, fast, light boats used around the coast of Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. One of their primary functions was to navigate the treacherous waters around the coast, delivering pilots to ships. As the first port of call for many ships heading to Europe, pilotage was a key occupation for many inhabitants of the Isles and, as it wasn't formally regulated and licensed until later, pilots competed with each other for work. Gigs were also used for transporting everything from brides to doctors, coffins to boxes of flowers around the islands, as well as relieving the lighthouse keepers out at Bishop's Rock, and some occasional smuggling trips too. In the days before and after the creation of official lifeboats, gigs played a key role in life-saving and salvage from shipwrecks. Despite salvage being more financially lucrative, gig crews launched themselves into dangerous seas to help with over 150 recorded rescue attempts before the 1950s. In 1872, gigs helped save 92 passengers and crew from the steamer Earl of Arran, and in 1893, the crew of the Horsa were all rescued. The crew of the Thomas W. Lawson, which sunk in 1907, were not so lucky. Although the gig Slippen went out to the rescue, only 2 of the crew could be saved. As work was insecure and gig crews needed to compete for it, the fastest, strongest and most seaworthy boats were highly in demand. From the late 1790s, these were built by the Peters family of St Mawes. William Peters created what is now the blueprint for the modern gig when he built the Trefry in 1838. He used Cornish elm for his 6-oared gigs, which were 32 foot long and had a 4 foot 10-inch beam, the same specifications used in gig building today. Throughout the 19th century it became popular for gig crews to compete with each other in regattas held around the Cornish coast. Many gigs travelled a long way to reach the site of the regattas. The lucrative prize money made this worthwhile as crews could take home an £8 prize, around £400 in today's money. The boats themselves were not cheap to build, costing around £30, £1,500 today, although the price has now rocketed to around £20,000 a boat. With the growth of steam travel and the formalisation of pilotage and life-saving, the use of gigs declined severely in the early 20th century until in the 1920s NEWQUAY Rowing Club was established, which used 3 old Peters gigs. However, it wasn't until the 1950s that gig rowing as a sport picked up again in earnest. Enthusiasts from NEWQUAY Rowing Club went to the Isles of Scilly to rescue some of the old gigs which had deteriorated to a very poor state. These included the Slippen and the Shah, which needed extensive repair work. When racing was re-established in the late 1950s in Cornwall and the 1960s in the Isles of Scilly, many of the old Peters gigs were still rowed. These included Bonnet, used for many smuggling trips, Slippen, Shah, Trefry and NEWQUAY, the oldest surviving gig, which celebrates its 200th birthday in 2012. Many of these gigs are still rowed and raced today, although new gigs have also been built. In 1987, the Cornish Pilot Gig Association formed to standardise the sport, and in 1989, the World Pilot Gig Championships began in the Isles of Scilly, a highlight in the rowing calendar, with more than 120 gigs participating in 2011. I spoke to adult and junior gig rowers from Helford River and Falmouth gig clubs about why they enjoy the sport and their feelings about its future.
Well, Isella introduced it to me. I had to take up a new sport, and I don't know, I just thought it looked good and took it up. And then my mum did it. So
Okay.
yeah, my family did it, so I thought I'd give it a go once. Yeah.
I took up gig rowing because it was a good opportunity to start something new, and it's a good way to keep fit.
It just, when you get into a rhythm and the whole boat is, in time together, that feels really good.
When you go up like the house and stuff, it's so beautiful.
It is, yeah.
And like in the club, like everyone knows each other, so in the boat you're all normally friends. So.
Yeah, it's quite close.
I like the racing. most of all.
Yeah, it's very competitive. Yeah, it's very good.
The camaraderie, rowing with a crew you train with every day.
Yeah. It's pretty all time consuming. You don't really, it becomes your life really.
I like being on the water and doing something that keeps you fit at the same time.
It's nice when you're like in the waves and I was going to say adrenaline, but I can't say it.
Adrenaline.
Yeah, that before a race. And the fact it's when it keeps you really fit.
Yeah, you get the worst blisters up here. So, and they pop.
Then you get them on your like fingers when you do on different sides, and it's disgusting.
It's windy.
When it's windy. Do you go out when it's raining?
I did a race when it was raining.
What was that like?
Wet.
Yes and no. Yes, because it'd be brilliant to, race as a part of the Olympics. But
It'd be nice
no,
to sit
because
on
we'd
the
probably
map.
get quite comprehensively beaten.
Yeah.
Who would beat you?
Wow, that is a good question, actually.
Yeah. If we were, going to win Olympic gold, then brilliant, go for it. But I have a horrible feeling that probably wouldn't happen. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Why?
Because it's quite competitive when you're racing, and it's really good fun.
I like watching the rowing.
Yeah, slowly seat rowing.
That's quite intense. I end up yelling at the screen.
I like watching the recycling.
Yeah, and the swimming as well.
Yeah, the swimming
is good.
I'd like to improve and maybe compete in a few more races because I've only done one.
I'd like to see more people doing gig rowing. Because of our age, I don't think many people have really heard of it.
It's an amazing feeling.
Karen's the most successful female gig rower of all time.
We've only been world champions once,
Yeah.
but Karen,
8 times world champion. In 2012, gigs are no longer used for pilotage, salvage and rescue, but the sport is flourishing. To become an Olympic sport, it would need to be widely practiced around the world, probably in at least 75 countries, and must also be recognised by an international federation. Although this type of recognition may be a long way off, it is worth noting that, despite being firmly entrenched in the maritime history of Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, in the last 2 decades the sport has already found fans in countries including France, Holland, Australia and the USA, so it might not be long before rumours of its appeal encourage it to spread even further around the world.